Hello and welcome. My name is Bex. I'm the hands behind Daisy and Dime, and today I want to chat a little bit. I love stitch and chat videos. I cannot watch enough of them, so I figured it'd be fun to try out one of these on my own channel. I have a frappe on standby. I hope you grab yourself a drink and something else to stitch up while we yap. Feel free to get cozy and buckle up. First and foremost, I just want to chat a little bit about my outfit today. I am wearing my Ellison vest. The pattern's available on my Etsy shop. I am so excited that the weather is finally starting to warm up. Like, it's actually starting to get warm here in Southern Ontario to the point where I can actually start wearing all of my crochet blouses and tank tops and kind of the more summery items rather than all of my crochet sweaters, which I've been basically living in since about October or November. I'm just so over winter. I am very warmly welcoming in the spring and hopefully soon summer weather. I'm also wearing my Hojicha Hairscarf. This pattern isn't out just yet, and this is actually the original sample that I thought I lost when we moved. I was so excited to find this stuffed in a little corner of my closet. There will be a pattern out for this hairscarf. It's really, really comfy, and it's made with the interlac crochet method, so it's basically like Tunisian crochet, but you don't need a Tunisian hook to achieve this stitch pattern, which is really cool. Anyway, let's get into stitching and chatting. So the past 3 or 4 months have been kind of a lot for me for a couple of different reasons. I find that the older that I get, the more I start to experience SAD. In the winter months. So already winter is sort of a struggle season for that reason. But honestly, 2025 has started off on a very chaotic note for me. In the spirit of yapping, here is a quick little recap of everything that's gone down since January. First, as some of you might know, I got greenlit to write my very first crochet pattern book in 2024, which was so exciting. It's actually that secret, not so secret project that I've been sort of talking about here on YouTube. So 2025, incidentally, actually began with an email from Emma, my very lovely publisher, who had informed me that a second different book idea that I had previously pitched to them actually also got picked up, which was really, really exciting. But there were a ton of logistical kind of issues and hurdles with trying to get 2 books done at the same time, given the sort of timelines that they wanted to be publishing them within. So ultimately, we had decided that because the pattern book had a little bit more flexibility to the timeline, that we were going to put that on pause and then go kind of full throttle with this second book idea. Basically, my entire work plan and schedule for 2025 got thrown out the window, which honestly was mildly chaotic because this was the one year that I had actually gone ahead and planned out my entire year as kind of like a big picture schedule to follow along with. And go figure that the one time I actually planned that far into the future, all of the plans ended up getting overhauled anyway. Obviously, this news was overwhelmingly exciting. That's the primary emotion that I felt when I got the news that this second book had been greenlit. I don't want to share too much about what it is going to be about just yet, but it's something that I have always wanted as a crocheter. It's kind of more of a resource book. So I'm very excited that I will be writing something that I kind of have always wanted. And I've always kind of felt that the market's been missing. But a lot of the work that I've been doing on this book so far has been kind of very text heavy. I haven't really been doing too much crocheting in regards to this book because we're just not at that stage yet where I will be needing to crochet some samples. Everything so far has been very writing heavy. So that was kind of number one. That's how I started off my year. And then the second thing that kind of was a total curveball was I had a collection that was supposed to come out. It was a collaboration that I've been working on since late 2024. And unfortunately, it ended up falling through, and it fell through on, I would say, pretty bad terms. I unfortunately cannot talk about details as to what happened or who this involved because I did have to sign an NDA to get my rights to my designs back. What I can say is it was a very frustrating and hurtful experience that genuinely put me off of Okay. Genuinely a pretty hurtful experience that kind of made me not want to touch a crochet hook for a while, which is really unfortunate. But what I have learned throughout this whole experience is it is okay to say no, that I don't have to be afraid to say no, that I can stand up for myself when I feel like I'm not being treated fairly, and to not be afraid that when there's an entity that's a lot bigger than me with a lot more resources than me, trying to change contractual obligations that I never agreed to, that I can stand my ground when it comes to stuff like that. I, in my working career, kind of all across the board, have historically kind of been a people pleaser. I have a really hard time saying no to people when it comes to work or my career. And honestly, this whole experience, although it was very painful in the moment, and it still is pretty painful if I think about it a little too long right now, it did teach me that I am most definitely strong enough to hold my own, and that I personally would rather walk away from something and still have the integrity of my brand and my ethos rather than betray that same ethos just for the sake of a paycheck. I won't lie though, this whole experience has definitely put quite a bit of a damper on my creative mojo for sure. And it honestly messed up some pattern releases that I had sort of scheduled for the near-ish future. These patterns were supposed to use yarn that was from this company, and I unfortunately just don't feel comfortable with them on my platform anymore, so I will have to reshoot and redo all of my samples, which is quite unfortunate, and it's a lot of work. And I have very much been dreading that. That was kind of the second thing that had happened that kickstarted my year. And then third, I have been dealing with some health changes. I was completely bedridden for several weeks, and I couldn't work or crochet like I'm used to. Honestly, if I got 10 minutes of either crocheting or answering emails or pattern writing, like any of those three categories, if I could do 10 minutes of one of them in a day, that was like a good work day for quite some time. I just really did not have it in me to be working. And that was honestly really quite difficult. Obviously, not only has that kind of pushed back things on my already really flipped around timeline, but just mentally, I'm not used to not working. I'm not used to kind of not being active. And that was a really big challenge for me to get over, which was basically just learning to be okay with doing nothing for a little bit. I'm very much a busybody. I always have a crochet hook in my hand, even if I'm just watching TV, if I'm just hanging out, I am always crocheting. And so it was very weird to not have that for a while. On one hand, I am very, very grateful that I am self-employed and that I was able to take this time off. I'm really grateful for the flexibility that being a full-time crochet designer gives me. On the other hand, though, it is definitely stressful when you are the only employee, because if you're not getting the work done, there's nobody to really pick up the slack for you. When I can't work, everything kind of ends up staying still. My to-do list only ends up getting bigger because everything stays right where I put it until I can kind of get back to it. It has definitely been quite stressful watching all of my tasks kind of pile up just simply because I was too sick to really tackle anything. So at this point, chipping through my to-do list honestly feels like summiting a mountain. So needless to say, the start to 2025 has not exactly been the bright and organized beginning that I thought that it was going to be. Honestly, that's okay. Some seasons of life are just a little bit more chaotic and turbulent than others, and that's totally fine. And all we can really do is just take it day by day, one step at a time. And what I really want to focus on is just getting some of my crojo back, because crocheting honestly brings me so much joy, and I'm just really missing that creative energy. So today, that is exactly what I'm gonna do. So to crochet today, I've got my Aster Dress the Aster dress that has been in my WIP pile for over a year. Honestly, as tumultuous of a project that this has been, I am kind of feeling the itch to just get this done and out of the way. I think partly because the weather is actually starting to get really nice here in Southern Ontario. I also think it's because I don't really have anything like this in my wardrobe just yet. So this dress is pretty much, I don't want to say pretty much, it's close to being done. Right now what I'm doing is just leveling out the final row of shell stitch so that it's a nice flat edge before I go in and make the tiered ruffle. And then after I do the ruffle, it's really just kind of some final touches here and there. Obviously, I have to do the edging along the neckline, and then where the two tiers of the skirt are meeting, basically where this leveling round is, what I want to do is add either a very tiny mini ruffle or a picot edge or some kind of scalloped edge or just something that'll give it a little bit more texture, something that kind of looks like trim around where there's that kind of junction of the two tiers. I just want this dress to have a tiny bit more texture. And also, I gotta show you, I need to line these pockets still. This is inside out. There's just always a good benefit to lining anything that's gonna be holding stuff. I mean, for one, your items can't really snag on the crochet stitches if there's a lining. And two, it stops the crochet fabric from stretching out and sagging over time. I do actually have two lining options, and I cannot decide for the life of me which one I want to pick for this dress. First option is this white and orange tiny gingham print. I just feel like this is so classic. And then this is option number 2. It's a red and gold mushroom print, which I just thought was so adorable when I saw it in the fabric shop. I can't pick between these two options, so if you have a preference, please let me know, because it's been impossible to decide which one to use for the pockets on this dress. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that this dress has been an absolute struggle to get through. It's not because it's like a hard design or anything. It's actually been really easy. And I honestly, when I was kind of coming up with the design concept for it, I thought it would be a very meditative project because it's basically just the closed shell stitch over and over and over again. And I love this stitch so much. Like, it's such a soothing stitch to me. I really thought that this would be a way more fun project, but I really think that this is just a case of me and the yarn just really not jiving. The yarn that I'm using for this dress is Hobby. I never know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry. It's their Sultan Solid yarn, and they very kindly gifted this yarn to me for a campaign last year. Genuinely, I thought that I was going to love it. I've really been a big fan of Hobby's yarn for as long as I've been shopping with them, really. I don't think I've ever gotten a yarn from them that I didn't like or even like felt meh about. Like, I've always really been happy with their cotton yarns especially. And I really genuinely, oh no. Uh-oh, I got distracted. I started yapping about this yarn that I hate so much and I ruined my stitches, uh-oh. And I really honestly thought that I was gonna like this yarn because it's made up of 4 unplied strands. So basically that means that the crocheted fabric or the knitted fabric, whatever medium you choose, it's going to be very airy, very lightweight. And there's quite a bit of mileage on this yarn in terms of how many meters you get per gram. So I think it's 100 grams are in a cake and you get 400 meters of yarn, which is like, that's a lot of yarn. And I thought that that would be perfect for a very voluminous maxi dress that I was designing. I have no idea why, but this yarn has just been such a pain to work with. It splits like crazy. I don't know if it's just the way that I hold my hook. Maybe that's the problem. But like, I really have to be watching what I'm doing. Otherwise I will miss a strand, especially when it comes to stitches like the closed shell stitch. I'm used to just being able to turn my brain off and just kind of do whatever. But unfortunately, that has not been the case with this yarn. I also don't know if I just got really unlucky, but in almost every single cake of this yarn that I've used, there have been sections where some of the strands are broken. So I'll be crocheting away, and then all of a sudden I'm only crocheting with 2 strands because 2 of the strands broke off like 50 meters ago and I didn't even notice. That's been pretty frustrating. The fabric that's made up of this yarn, like when you start working it up, it really is beautiful. And it's so breathable, and like I said, just very airy. There's so much movement to it, but I cannot get behind this yarn, unfortunately. I really wanted to like this yarn, but I don't think it's the one for me. Anyway, all of that to say, as much as this has been a pain to kind of work up over the past year, I am really excited to just get it off of my hook because I think it's going to be such a beautiful dress in the end. I do wish I had the mental fortitude to just press on and just deal with being miserable so I could make this in a maxi length like I originally intended, but I just really don't think that's in the cards for me. At this point, I really just think I value getting this out of my WIP pile more than finishing this to exactly the way that I had envisioned in my head. So we're gonna go with a mini length for this one, just for brevity's sake. I know I mentioned this in my 2025 project plans video, but I do have some very pretty golden yellow Lindy chain yarn that I will be using for the official sample, which is really exciting because Lindy chain is one of my absolute favorite yarns of all time. It's a cotton and linen blend. It has a chainette construction, so it's sturdy but still really lightweight. It's what I used to make my wedding dress back in 2022, and I absolutely loved the way that it turned out there. I have slightly less yardage of the Lindy chain than I do of this Sultan yarn, so that one's probably going to be a true mini. This one, I'm really hoping I can just persevere and make it hopefully below the knee, like just below, so it'll be kind of a midi length, just so that I have some variance between my samples and their length, but we will see if I can handle any more of this. I do feel like just on the factor of using a different yarn, this will go by so much quicker. I know that sounds so silly, but honestly, when I'm working with Lindy chain, it just flies off my hook. Like, it's such an easy yarn to work with. A, and then also B, this doesn't really have to tie in too much with the yarn itself. This was my first sample. This is kind of where I was able to work out all of the kinks with the design. The biggest mistake that I made with this dress by far was the first time I tried making pockets. This was my very first attempt ever at incorporating slit style pockets into a design. And I made the very unfortunate mistake of starting them way too late into the skirt body, like my very first time around. So when I had actually finished the pockets and then went back to just kind of crocheting rounds for the skirt, I tried it on and the pockets were like mid-thigh length on me. Like they were so far down, and it just looked and felt so awkward. So I had to rip all of it back. Because I had to make it higher up, I had to rip back all of the previous skirt rows that I did by like 4 inches, and it was just absolutely brutal. I don't know if you can see this. See, if this was any other yarn, I would want to do the ruffle with a larger sized hook so that it's like even more airy and has even more drape and movement. I am so scared of this yarn though, because it's also so delicate. I'm really scared of it snagging on things, so I'm just going to stick with the smaller gauge one for this Sultan sample. But when I do Lindy chain, I'll probably end up using a larger hook just so that I get that much more movement with the bottom tiered ruffle. Now, as I mentioned, I have been in quite a bit of a creative slump because of how nuts the start to 2025 has been for me. And you might be asking yourself, Bex, did you really not crochet anything? Have you really not touched your hook? And to that I say, no, I did actually end up finishing one project, and that, let me finish my stitch. That would actually be an Ellie blouse. Ellie blouse, to be specific. I made this using Hobie's Rainbow Bamboo yarn in the ginger shade, which is one of my favorite shades in their entire Rainbow Bamboo collection. This is an almost finished object, however. And I say almost finished because this has actually been a quite long awaited tutorial from me, and that would be for my embroidered Ellie tutorial. I shared some pictures and some reels a really long time ago on Instagram of this one Ellie blouse that I made where I had embroidered a bunch of flowers and vines along the neckline, and I got so many requests asking me if I could do a tutorial on how I embroidered all of these flowers on Ellie. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. And so at that point, I had only done the square neckline, right? Because Ellie is a reversible design. You can wear it with the square neck or the V-neck in the front or in the back. And it's also reversible if you turn it inside out. Like the stitch pattern's reversible, but that's neither here nor there. But so I had already done the square neck. So I was like, okay, great. Yeah, I'll just film myself doing the V-neck and everything will be peachy and fantastic. And when I say that the footage was so bad, it was embarrassingly bad. I wish I still had it to show you. I was not in focus half the time. My hands were covering everything that I was doing. Like I didn't shoot it at the right angle. There were Loki hairs all over this Ellie blouse that I just somehow missed with my lint roller. Honestly, like I am by no means a pro at embroidery. I kind of just winged the first neckline attempt, and with the footage that I shot in the quality that it was shot at, with my lack of expertise doing kind of embroidery style videos, it felt more like it should be a time lapse rather than something educational that's trying to teach you how to do the embroidery. Footage was just so terrible. Like I was completely put off of uploading it because I was like, there's no way that folks are going to be able to actually follow along, especially if they're a beginner at embroidery. Like it was not good. So I decided it would be better for all parties, both me and you, if I just scrapped all of the footage and redid the tutorial properly this time. A big reason why I was so unhappy with the Ellie embroidery tutorial is honestly because I really, like I said, don't consider myself to be much of an embroiderer. My bubby taught me some skills when I was really, really young, but I didn't know in the tutorial that I originally shot how to explain what I was doing with the proper terms and using proper techniques. Like I said, I really just winged it, but I have been able to brush up on my embroidery skills so that I can make the best tutorial possible with you guys, thanks to some classes that I've been taking on Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online community for creatives, with thousands of classes led by industry experts across film, illustration, design, freelance, productivity, and more. Skillshare can help you take your career, skills, hobbies, passions, or side hustles to the next level. I am someone who is always looking for new hobbies to learn, and Skillshare has so many classes available, from crocheting and knitting, to gardening, to journaling and organization. Speaking of which, I have been sorely neglecting my bullet journal lately. I think it's because these past few months have had me in a really big creative slump, but Amanda Rach Lee's Art Journaling for Self-Care, 3 Exercises for Reflection and Growth class has really inspired me to get back into it. I really like having journaling as a non-fiber arts centered outlet, and it's always great to learn some fresh new ways to approach it. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Get started today. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. So yeah, I'm really hoping that with kind of these new skills in embroidery that I'll be able to make a proper, well-structured tutorial for everyone to follow along with so that they can make their own embroidered version of Ellie. I do apologize for how long it's been since I announced that I was going to be making a tutorial, and it's not even out yet, but I really do just want to make sure that whatever I am putting out there is easy for people to follow along and learn with. Speaking of tutorials though, I've gotta say, I have gotten quite the Crojo boost lately. After seeing so many of you recreating my tie front buttercup top pattern hack, I have a very old and outdated tutorial over on Instagram and TikTok where I took my buttercup top pattern and I hacked it to become this really cute tie front blouse. A while back, maybe like a couple months ago, I shared a reel of me wearing one of these tie front pattern hacked Buttercup tops. And since then, I have seen such a resurgence in people giving this pattern hack a try. If you didn't know though, I remastered my Buttercup top in 2023, and this pattern hacked version came out in, I want to say 2021. So the current instructions that you'll find in Buttercup don't really match up with what's happening in the pattern hack video because the instructions are so different now. I was planning to film and share a proper tutorial for this pattern hack and have it posted by the end of the month, but unfortunately, because I was so sick for so long, I just didn't get around to doing it. And this updated version, of course, would include a document, kind of like the foxglove pattern hack that I did. Like I said, because I was so sick for so long, this very obviously and sadly got delayed. But I have to say, I am really touched at the amount of people who have been making the modded version, even though the instructions don't completely line up with the new version of the pattern. There have been so many tie front buttercups that have been popping up on my feed, and it's just very exciting and heartwarming. And it's motivated me so much to get a tutorial out for you ASAP. Because I want you guys to have, a proper set of instructions to make it. I have some very pretty muted kind of ochre colored yarn. I think that color and also yarn composition would be really nice for a tie front buttercup. Although lately I have been craving crocheting something in some kind of shade of green. Surprisingly, I actually don't have that much green in my stash currently. And I especially don't really have any green in my stash that would work for a summery top. Like everything that I have right now is halo-y or kind of fuzzy, or it would be too thick. If I were to go ahead and crochet the tie front buttercup top with green yarn, that means I would have to get it, and I'm trying to be responsible and just use what is in my stash. So I think that this ochre yarn that I have is my next best bet. Obviously, the benefit to using yarn that's already in my stash is I don't have to wait for it to arrive. So that means I can start filming a tutorial a lot sooner than if I had to wait for some yarn to come in the mail. So I think that's just a win all around, to be honest. Honestly, I have to say, just chatting about crochet plans while crocheting, like actively, has really honestly already kind of started to help me get my mojo back. I think it's definitely kind of putting me in a bit of a better headspace for sure. This is the longest crochet session that I've had in, I don't even know, a long time. But sometimes you just get in a funk, whether it's because of setbacks or art blocks or just bad experiences, or whatever have you. Sometimes you just get in a funk, and sometimes it can take a little while to bounce back, and that's completely okay. Don't let anyone ever try to tell you otherwise. So I think this is what I am going to do. Here's my game plan now that I am no longer totally bedridden. I'm going to try to do at least 1 to 2 rounds in this dress every single day. I think keeping my daily crocheting in small increments, it's going to help to not overwhelm me. Like I'm not setting some unrealistic goal of like, okay, from now on I can go back to marathon crocheting. Keeping a slow but steady pace means that if I complete these 1 to 2 rounds every single day, in theory, because I only have maybe 8 to 10 rounds left to do, I can finish in 10 days or less, depending on if I get 2 rounds done a day. But I'm only putting the goal for 1. 2 is, if we're feeling extra spicy that day. Having a dress finished in 10 days doesn't sound that scary or unmanageable, even if I absolutely hate this yarn. I think what I need to just actually break out of this slump is to just finish a project and see all of my hard work has finally paid off. Aster is what's calling to me the most out of all of my currently existing projects. I really don't want to cast on anything new because I don't want to take on any more responsibilities. I think really the root of where my Crojo has gone missing is because I feel like I'm not really accomplishing anything lately because all of my projects have either been part of an even bigger project, or they completely fell through and I have to redo all of the work that I put into them. So I feel like just getting like one task done, just one thing done is gonna really, really help me out. Fingers crossed, wish me luck. And I hope that if you have been kind of in a similar slump, know that it's okay if you're not always at 100%. Creativity is always going to ebb and flow. Some seasons in your life are going to be better and more productive and more creatively inspiring than others, and some aren't, and that's okay. Your speed at which you finish projects, the outside factors determining when you can work on stuff or when you have creative energy, none of those dictate your skills or your proficiency. It's okay to take breaks. It's okay to feel meh about something that you are usually passionate about. Fiber arts are always going to be there for you, so you come back when you're feeling ready. Anyway, I wanted to give a very big thank you for tuning into the very first episode of this kind of crochet and chat type of video. If you have any suggestions for a proper name for this type of video, I would really love to hear it. Also, please let me know what you think of this format where I'm just kind of yapping your ear off. I honestly have had a lot of fun today, just kind of chatting and keeping things very cool and casual. And I'd really like to do more of these in the future if you're interested in seeing some. If you liked listening to me ramble for however long this has been, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more from me, or if you are waiting patiently or impatiently for that Buttercup or Ellie tutorial that I mentioned in today's video, then please consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. And of course, thank you again so much to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. If you have any tips on how to recover from a creative slump, please don't be shy and share them down below. Or if you've got some creative energy flowing and you want to pass on those good vibes, I would absolutely love to hear what's on your hook and your needles, any kind of fiber art that you're working on, or any just regular thing that you've been up to that you've been enjoying. Anyway, I hope you have a happy, safe, and wonderful rest of your day wherever you are in the world, and as always, I will catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye!